The 2018 first meeting of the Democrat-controlled local government will come to order. You better hurry, kids.
The bipartisan committee, is that what you said, Mr. Chairman?
Right now, there's a supermajority of Democrats on this committee. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to Senate Local Government Committee. We've got bills that have been coming in. We're going to try to get through as many as we can. Today, we put up some charter bills, of course, which I think we'll do first, but also, ladies and gentlemen, this committee will have to rise shortly before 4 o'clock. We have a meeting which all of the Republicans are mandated to go to, so we'll do what we can right now, right here. First, I want to, of course, have the pages introduce themselves. Stand and be recognized. First, ladies first.
My name is Scarlett Rainey.
Scarlett, where are you from?
I'm from Freeman, Virginia.
Where's that?
It's near Brunswick County.
Where's that?
It's in your district, Chairman.
Okay, very good. Yes, sir, young man. Fredericksburg. Very good. Welcome. We're very proud that you're a part of the 2018 Page class. Remember, there's only one rule in Page class, which is Susan Char is always right. And, well, there's a second rule, that despite what she says about me, you're to do whatever I ask you to do, okay? We'll have fun, but we're really excited about you being here. And if the staff now will introduce themselves, you guys can have a seat.
I'm Jeff Sharp with Division of Legislative Services.
I'm David Barry with Division of Legislative Services.
DB.
Chad Starzer with the Senate Clerk's Office.
Grace Nyland with Committee Operations.
All right, and welcome, and thank you all for being a member of this committee and providing all of the hard work that we then try to consider in these bills that we have before us. Like I said, we've probably got about 30, 40 bills in this committee. It was kind of high compared to last year, but we'll try to go through them. There's a little bit of housekeeping. Senator Newman has asked that his SB 367 go by for the day. Oh, right, sure. Roll call, that's it. Okay, yeah. Now, this is my first roll call without names being called down. Please answer on the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. And please forgive me as we get used to this new computer system. There may be some hiccups, but we'll do the best we can. First things, some housekeeping business. SB 367, Newman would like that passed by for the week. Yes, passed by for the week. If you have an objection, please let us know.
No, I don't have an objection.
Very good.
That's a nice thing to do.
All in favor of passing Senate Bill 367 by for the week, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, and that is passed by for the week. Hold on, there's one more, and I think it's Stewart's Senate Bill 208. The patron has asked that be passed by for the week. And so for those reasons, I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion and a second properly made. All in favor of passing by this bill for the week, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and that is passed by for the week. So look at us, we're off to a fast start. What I think we're going to try to do is work on some charter bills, which is one of the fun things that this committee does.
You know, Mr. Cosgrove here might want to see a chart bill.
Yeah. So, and really, I don't, who do I have signed up first? Anybody signed up on the iPad? John Cosgrove. Oh, there you go. Senator Cosgrove, Senate Bill 127.
Yes, thank you so much. Senate Bill 127 is not a rise and fall Commonwealth bill by any means, way, or shape. This bill would just allow the city of Chesapeake to be amended that the city auditor, who's called the clerk department body, will be hired based solely on professional qualifications and will serve at the pleasure of the city council. Mr. J. Poole, who is our auditor and who is extraordinarily good job, is here if there are any questions, because it's fairly straightforward and simple.
Mr. Chairman,
Any questions, the patron?
move to report.
Hold on now. I mean, are there any questions? Is there anybody in favor of this bill that would like to speak briefly? Is anyone opposed to this bill that would like to speak freely? Put your hands together for Bill Carrico, everybody, just entering the building. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, there's been a motion made on the floor to report Senate Bill 127. Is there a second?
Second.
Second being properly made. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, the vote is now open. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator want to change their vote? I will close the roll.
12 ayes, 0 noes.
Senator Cosgrove, you're doing very well today. Do you want to stay right there, or do you want to go for it?
I'd like to go ahead and finish the list.
Senate Bill 137.
Senate Bill 137. Basically, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, in the past, several appropriations bills, there has been money set aside for buying encroachment property around Oceana Master Jet Base and the Fentress Landing Field, which is a practice landing field for our Navy fighter jets in the city of Chesapeake. What this bill does is say that when the city makes a decision on where to spend that money, 2 members of the General Assembly must be involved in that decision, or at least let known what's happening. That would be the 2 people who actually represent that area. Those 2 would be myself and Delegate Knight at this time. This is an extraordinary amount of money that the General Assembly generously gives to the Chesapeake and surrounding areas. And we feel that there should be some General Assembly input in that. That's the bill.
Okay. Are there any questions of the patron of this bill? We're in committee, guys. We operate by questions and motions. Is there anyone here that would like to
Second.
speak in favor of the bill? Hold on. Anybody here that would like to speak against the bill? Seeing none, is there a motion? Motion being properly made and seconded to report this bill. Is there any discussion on Senate Bill 137? Hearing none. All in favor, please vote. And the clerk will close the roll.
12 ayes, 0 noes.
Senator Cosgrove. That's the reason why you got a 12-0 vote there, Senator Cosgrove. All right, next in the queue, I have Senator Ben Chafin. Next I have in the queue, oh, you got him? All right. Playing the role of Senator Chafin, Senator Steph.
Senator DeStefano.
That's a very good attempt. All right, looks like we got here with Ben Chafin, Senate Bill 383.
And Senate Bill 383, Mr. Chairman, reorganizes the Tourism Development Authority serving the Cumberland Plateau and Lenawinsko planning districts. The authority is known as the Heart of Appalachia. There have been no revisions to this legislation since it was formed as an authority back in 1993. The language in the bill decreases the board membership to include local county tourism directors, entrepreneurs from lodging, restaurants, and representatives from the outdoor recreational, Jefferson National Forest, and Virginia State Park. This language will permit the authority to better facilitate and coordinate the tourism initiatives that have fueled and surged the economic development in Southwest Virginia. I have support resolutions from the Board of Supervisors from all 7 counties and the city of Norton that are served by the authority. If it's the committee's pleasure, I request that this bill pass and move forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Any questions for the patron?
I have a question.
Senator Marshall.
Lenawinsko, can you tell us what it stands for?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Morrison, I have no clue.
Lee, Norton, Wise, Kansas.
Thank you.
There we go. We knew somebody. We've got a local here.
There we go, Mr. Chairman.
I have a question. Do you know where the Cumberland Plateau is?
It's in the southwest portion of the state, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Well, hold on. Does anyone here want to speak in favor of the bill or opposed to the bill? Seeing none, I hear a motion being made on the floor. Oh, wait. Do we have actually some? Nope, just walking by.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes. Senator Donovan.
How about Senator Chase?
Or Senator Chase.
Twin sisters of the Senate. Thank
That's
you, Mr.
right.
Chairman. Just one question of the patron. Do you know if the budget is approved by an elected body like Board of Supervisors?
Mr. Chairman, I have no clue whether the budget's approved by the Board of Supervisors or anyone else. I believe the answer to that is no, as I'm
Lennowisco is a planning district that has their own body that's made up of the three localities, so they're the ones that budget. This is adding to that board because there's a number of new tourism initiatives in those counties that are covered by Lennowisco Planning District, and they're the ones that requested the bill.
Does that clear that up for you, Senator Steph? All right, we have a motion on the floor to report. Is there a second?
Second.
Second being properly made. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, the roll will be open for voting.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you very much.
Clerk will close the roll.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
You got more votes than Cosgrove did. Well done. All right, so the bill passes and reports 13-0, and we all know where Lennowisco is now. All right, next in the queue is Senator Obenshain. Seeing none, Senator Reeves. Seeing none, Senator Black. Are you Dick, hold on. I think we have a stunt, Reeves. Once again. Ladies and gentlemen of this committee, when you cannot present a bill, we now know who to get it done. Yes. Senator Reeves.
Mr. Chairman.
Senate Bill 477.
Standing in for Senator Reeves on Senate Bill 477. This is a very simple bill that adds Orange and Spotsylvania County to the localities that can use GIS data to come to voluntary boundary agreements. This came at the request of Spotsylvania and Orange County administrators. This would formally recognize a common boundary long established since the 1970s by the Commissioner of Revenue for Orange County and Spotsylvania County, respectively. Further, the common boundary agreement would rely on each locality's existing geographic information system, GIS, maps to depict the change in the common boundary because it is of most cost-effective means. With that, Mr. Chairman, we request that this bill move forward.
Any questions? Any questions of the substitute patron on Senate Bill 477? Anybody who'd like to speak in favor of this bill? Anybody want to speak against this bill? Seeing none, motion being properly made to report Senate Bill 477 supported by a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, the rolls will be open and the senators will vote. The clerk will close the roll.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
13 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 477 passes.
And then the full text. See if they'll get you there.
Senator Black. You're now up.
You made my day. I don't use that very often.
Ladies and gentlemen, please pay attention to Senate Bill 92. Senator
Thank you,
Black,
Mr. Chairman.
thank you
Ladies
for coming
and
here.
gentlemen. I have Senate Bill 92. It's a Section 1 bill, and basically what it does, it permits counties within, or rather towns within Loudoun County to let the county treasurer do their tax collection work. They're not required to do it, but they're given that opportunity. It's a Section 1 bill because we didn't want it to apply mandatorily other places, but it seems that the representative of the state treasurers is fine with it. There's no opposition. We know. I would like to point out, though, that Senator Wexton, who also has a major part of Loudoun County, has a similar bill, which is Senate Bill 123.
And Senator Black, we just noticed that as well. I should have been paying more attention. And so they're identical bills, I'm told by staff. So with a motion, we will roll Senate Bill 123 and your permission, of course, into 92 and make you both the chief co-patron, or do you
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Motion being made to roll Senate Bill 123 into Senate Bill 92, making Senator Black and Senator Wexton chief co-patron, first and a second being made. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. And that has now occurred. We are now, once again, Senate Bill 92 with the chief co-patron of Senator Wexton is now before us.
Move to report.
Well, I have a question of the patron. Is this important for your locality?
Yes, I mean, it's something that they want.
Is it? It's really important, isn't it?
Well,
It's not really a political bill, is it? Right? It's really important to you?
it is not a political bill. It is not nearly so important as some other legislation that comes before the Senate these days, but it is a good bill. Let me put it that way.
Marsden wants to take a bye for the day. Do you object to that? No.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman. No, I withdraw that.
Senator Servo.
Would the gentleman consider a friendly amendment to add an emergency clause?
I would prefer no emergency clauses.
All right, there is a motion to report. Is there a second? I didn't hear it. Second being properly made and supported. Is there any discussion on Senate Bill 92? This is now a bipartisan bill, Senator Black. You understand that, right?
I understand it.
It might
and
be
I
the
think
only
that
bipartisan
may
bill
be-
we have this year, Senator
it may
Black.
be
Do you understand
the
that?
last.
All right. We'll open the roll. And the clerk will close the roll.
13 ayes, 0 noes.
13 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 92 is reported.
That means
Congratulations.
it's reported, right?
That's what it means, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Yeah, can we all link arms now and be partisan, put partisanship aside? All right, let's see. Senator Reeves has been done. Obenshain? Two bills, Senate Bill 546 and Senate Bill 550. Welcome, Senator Obenshain.
Well, it's good to be welcomed. I have two momentous charter amendment bills.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are extremely controversial bills, so please pay attention.
Indeed. 546.
Yes, sir.
Town of Broadway simply conforming its charter to their current practice concerning the election of mayor and their council members.
Okay. Is there anyone here that, any questions of the patron? Anyone here like to speak in favor or opposed to this bill?
Hope not. Either way.
Okay. Motion being made to report the bill and a second properly
I will
supported.
second.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Lewis? Or no, sorry, Mike Duff.
There you go. Question to the patron, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Was there an ordinance or move by the council to change or request?
This wasn't my request. My understanding is all the documentation has been submitted. I didn't come up with this. This was a request by the town by ordinance.
Okay, so they made an official motion somewhere on.
Absolutely.
In their body.
And my understanding is, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but none of these proceed without the appropriate documentation, local government action. So trust me, I'm not looking to amend a single charter in any town or city in my district.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any further questions? All right, hearing none, a motion and a second being properly supported, being having made. Any discussion? And the clerk I'll open the roll. And the clerk will there we go. Clerk will close the roll.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
13 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 546. Senator Obenshain, looks like you've made it on Broadway. So there you go.
Well, now we can try Front Royal. So
Okay.
see what the play is there.
Tricky. Senate Bill 550.
Senate Bill 550, also pursuant to a request by local governing body, town council of the town of Front Royal. They have requested a number of proposed changes, including changing the election for town council and mayor from May to November. My understanding is they've already done this by ordinance anyway, and this is to conform their charter to practice. It allows town council to designate additional town officers by ordinance. It causes the elections to be nonpartisan because of the number of federal employees who have sought or have served in local elective office, places town's charter, and current state code protections to the town's ability to collect out of town utility fees against future state infringement, and this is something that they've worked out with the adjoining jurisdiction, Front Royal, provides protections to the town's ability to locally regulate its locally owned electric utility, and that's in a nutshell the sum and substance of these amendments.
Any questions of the patron? Anybody here who would like to speak in support of the bill or in opposition to the bill? Seeing none, hearing none, is there a motion on this bill? Motion to report this bill being made properly seconded. Is there any discussion on that motion? And the committee will vote. Clerk will close the roll.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you very much.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
Always good to see you, Senator Obenshain.
Good to see you.
13 yeas, 0 nays. Senate Bill 550 is reported. And we probably will never understand what we just did for Front Royal, but we wish them luck. All right, Senator Stewart, we've taken care of. Senator Edwards. Although Cree has been there longer. I mean, you want to, my man, Senator Deeds is sitting there longer. He's waited this out.
Mr. Chairman,
John.
this is for the city of Roanoke. You saw it last year. You loved it last year. At least it got out of committee
I tried.
last year. Yeah, Rob is here to speak for the city of Roanoke. Yeah, here he is. It's a very simple bill. You may recall Councilwoman Michelle Dykstra last year came and spoke in favor of it. Senate Bill 149 provides that any locality by ordinance could establish a non-smoking area in an outdoor amphitheater subject to the following. One, adequate signage, so nobody's questioned about it. Secondly, the person who continues to smoke after being asked to refrain from smoking. Somebody's got to go up there and say, would you please put out the cigarette or the cigar or whatever it is? And if they still, in defiance of that kind request, continue doing it, they could be subject to a whopping civil penalty of $25. My gosh. And that money would go to the Virginia Healthcare Fund, which would greatly enhance the fund, I'm sure. And so it's a very simple bill. It's innocuous. Nobody could possibly complain that they haven't been notified twice by notice, official signage, and secondly, requested kindly, please don't smoke. We've had complaints in Roanoke City's amphitheater about people smoking with some of the patrons who say they sit next to people that continue smoking, and some children have been there and it bothers them too. So it's simply a courtesy to say, would you please not smoke? And again, a signage plus a official request, and they'd be subject to a $25 civil penalty. That's all it is. Very simple bill. Rob is here to speak on behalf of the city of Roanoke.
First, are there any questions of the patron? Okay, Mr. Catron.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one question.
Senator Hanger.
Senator Edwards, is this identical to the bill that came through here last year?
I think it is. I think it's supposed to have been.
The staff.
It looks to me like it is. I didn't
DB.
compare them, but I asked for it to be put in. Is that right?
It says as amended from 938 as amended. Does this
Yeah.
reflect the amended version of 938 from
Yeah,
last year?
this is the amended version from the floor last year.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Carrico.
does the amphitheaters have assigned seating? In other words, if, do I have to sit in a certain place if someone's smoking in front of me?
They're not assigned seating, and the signage wouldn't necessarily be put up all the time. It'd be whenever the city decides there's a concert going on and they want to, so you need to have a sign. But no, there's no assigned, to my knowledge, there's no assigned seating.
All right.
You can move around.
Mr. Catron.
Good
Welcome.
afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I would just add to Senator Edwards' remarks that over the past year, we've continued to receive complaints from citizens who go to the amphitheater with their kids and end up sitting around people who are smoking. The bill will designate either a non-smoking area and a smoking area. And if people want to continue to smoke at the concert, there'll be a place for that. So we're not trying to ban smoking at concerts. We're just setting aside areas for designated non-smoking and designated smoking areas. So everybody will be accommodated.
What if Norman legalizes marijuana this year? Where are they going to put them?
That's a totally different bill, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any further questions, Mr. Catron or the patron? Anybody want to come and speak in support of this bill? Anybody want to speak against this bill?
Mr. Chairman, I move to report.
Motion being properly made to report. There's a second. Properly supported. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I will open the roll for voting. Please vote. And for the record, and the clerk will close the roll.
10 ayes, 3 nays.
10 ayes, 3 nays. You're getting better at this.
I am. It's like
Congratulations.
wine, it improves the sound.
You're doing a very nice job, Senator Edwards. Always good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
Is this important for your area, Senator Edwards? Is it important for your area? No? Okay, just checking.
You're just creating hospital business by allowing smoking.
Hey, I am in the midst of... It's about freedom and bald eagles and stuff.
I don't
Okay, next one in the queue, Senator Deeds. Welcome, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, members
Sen-
of the committee.
Senate Bill 667?
667. Yeah, in Charlottesville this summer, there was a little disturbance on the 12th of August. There were a lot of people there, and of course, there were National Guard, state police, some county police, and the city police there. Some of the demonstrators were dressed in such a way that it made it hard for people to figure out who were the police and who were the National Guardsmen that were there to keep order, and who the demonstrators were. And so this bill gives local government the ability to enact an ordinance for when there's a demonstration to regulate garb in such a way that people might, to prevent people from appearing at, it's already against the law to impersonate a police officer. This basically is a way to prevent people from dressing in such a way, and during one of those permitted demonstrations, dressing in such a way that they are mistaken as a police officer, National Guardsman, or any sort of law enforcement. And that's what the bill does.
Are there any questions of the patron on this bill? Senate Bill 667.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Carrico.
So basically, when you have your riot gear, as the police officers have, are you saying that they can't dress in clothing that's similar to the blue Dickie type outfit, or they just can't have the helmet and shields like?
Well, it's interesting, Mr. Chairman, Senator Carrico, there were people this summer that had shields and weapons.
I understand that.
And so for the person who's not necessarily familiar with what a police officer or a law enforcement or National Guardsman may or may not wear, they just didn't know who was who.
Mr. Chairman, just.
Senator Carrico.
That's what I'm asking. I don't think your bill specifies that. I think it says any combat military type attire, which I could buy combat. I wear fatigues to cut wood, to do things. And if I showed up there and had fatigues on, I'd be in violation of this. But if I was dressing, I could probably see more your point if I was dressing like that, then had the shields, the helmets, and everything that they had at this situation. But I don't.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Senator, if there's a better way to write this or to make it more specific, I'm certainly amenable to any sort of amendment. But I think you understand what I was getting at. On that day, there was terrible confusion amongst the people as to who were the good guys and who weren't. And I'm just trying to put another quiver or put another arrow in the quiver of local government to protect their citizens.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Senator McClellan. No, are you finished with your questions?
No, I just wanted to make another point as to.
So, Senator McClellan, will you yield and allow him
Yes.
just to make that point? Thank you.
I think what
Senator
he's
Kirkland.
trying, I think what you're trying to get at, Senator Deeds, is that they don't have the equipment. In other words, they don't have the helmet, the shields, the similar equipment that law enforcement had, but not necessarily the clothing. I think that's already a violation of the law if you dress up and impersonate a police officer. But I don't know that this bill actually, I think it's too broad. I think it would capture anyone if they had the fatigue pants,
And perhaps you're right. Maybe it is too broad. I would welcome an amendment that narrows it.
Mr. Chair, this is on this point, so, thank you. I think if you look at line 16, between line 16 and then lines 20 to 22, I think address Senator Carrico's problem. The violation is if you are wearing a combination of attire and weaponry that would give a reasonable person the impression that the wearer is an on-duty member of the armed forces or law enforcement. So if you're just wearing fatigues, but you don't appear to be like you're an on-duty member of the military, you'd be fine. But if you are dressed so that you look like you are on duty at that event, but then I point you to lines 20 to 22, that the regulation or restriction will not apply to any active members of the United States Armed Forces, law enforcement officer, historical reenactors, or actors in a film. So I think between that exclusion and the phrase that says that you can't look like an on-duty officer or armed forces person, I think that addresses Senator Carrico's concern.
And if I may, and Senator Deeds, what concerns me, and you're a great lawyer, so, maybe this is that kind of discourse we need to have to see if there's somewhere we can find a happy medium. Working off of what Senator Carrico said, you and I don't deal with many impressions in legal circles, in terms of, statutes that say, well, that act in such a way as that you would give someone an impression that you're doing something or being something. That concerns me, number one. And I don't know if you concur with that or you can explain it to me so that I feel better about it.
If that statute were if that language were in a criminal statute, it would concern me a great deal. And in my view, just this language empowers local government, gives local government fairly broad authority, but you still, it has to be something that's going to create the notion in the mind of a reasonable person that, number one, the person is an official or is pretending to be an official law enforcement authority, and number two, they feel that there's a public threat to constitute a threat to the public safety or welfare.
Yeah, and I'll talk about that second. But okay, so what's the remedy for the city? The city says we're banning anybody that's dressed like GI Joe. And so that's banned. Somebody shows up looking like GI Joe. Clearly, it looks like GI Joe. What's the remedy?
Well, I think there's a statute that says that anything where remedy's not spelled out as a Class 1 misdemeanor.
Right.
Yeah.
So it would be a class. And wouldn't this then be the legal standard by which that person would be judged at the bar of justice?
Well, this would be the standard by which the ordinance would have to be judged. I mean, and
can't the judge read the two things together or try to find?
Well, I think the judge is going to have to read the ordinance. I mean, the judge. I don't know that the judge is going to have to read a standard from this language or from this statute. The judge will have to look at the ordinance and determine whether it provides the person notice and it creates the appropriate legal standard.
And if you'll just, because I'm trying to be very serious about this because I worry about what this may open. So let's say Carrico shows up, doesn't know there's a parade, and he's in his woodcutting clothes.
Yeah.
But you know, Billy, I mean, he looks, pretty big guy. He looks, look at that haircut. That's a military style, police guy. I mean, he looks like a trooper, but he's not. He's retired. Through the eye of the beholder, could he be charged?
Well, I don't think that if you're wearing your woodcutting attire, I don't see how in the world you would give a reasonable person the impression that you are aware, that the wearer is an on-duty member of the United States Armed Forces, an official law enforcement agency, or the militia.
And just in final two, my other concern, Senator Deeds, is that, again, through the eye of the beholder, if such attire constitutes a threat to the public safety or welfare,
Right.
who's the judge of that?
Well,
And isn't that, I mean, I could say, look, Billy's bigger than me. Carico's a lot bigger, so I feel intimidated. Just when he stands up or he eats his lunch.
From my perspective, this language gives the authority to local governments to enact an ordinance that creates a reasonable person standard. And then it becomes up to the court to determine whether, first a police officer or a magistrate has to determine whether paper is going to be written, and then a court's going to have to decide whether there's guilt. And I think that's a pretty tough standard.
Yeah. And so my final thing is, I just don't know where in the United States, I mean, we can restrict kind of clothing in schools in limited basis, but aren't there some constitutional concerns that maybe you've read about?
There
being
may
the great
be,
lawyer that you are.
But in my time here, we've passed statutes that I guess have been upheld or not been challenged, that have prevented people from adults from wearing masks, that have prevented people from impersonating police officers. And on this day in question, you had people that looked like they were the militia, the National Guard. And it seems to me that we ought to be able to protect the community in that instance.
And doesn't this bill also ban weaponry? 'Cause it says that it would allow the locality to prohibit the wearing of any combination of attire or weaponry commonly associated with military combat.
Well, and this goes to my earlier discussion with Senator Carrico, Mr. Chair, that there were people there that day wearing shields.
I get that.
Wearing shields. I mean, this doesn't, the term weaponry may not be, it might not be the right word, but I think you understand what we're trying to get at. We're not trying to ban the carrying of weapons, of firearms. We're trying to say that any combination of weaponry and attire that makes one look like a law enforcement officer or a active duty soldier or one of the good guys, that a locality can prevent that by ordinance during a permitted demonstration.
Okay, and I thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
And I appreciate them. Senator Favola.
I will just note that according to the state statutes, administrative review processes, the local governments have to go through a hearing. There's a lot of input before they adopt an ordinance. So I think they'll have to, the local governments, by definition, would have to add a lot of specificity and probably even pictures in their local ordinance. So the local governments are going to be putting boundaries around this. As I understand the local government process, this is maybe broader than what you're comfortable with, but it's not, it's really not what the local government's going to be able to adopt, because they wouldn't be able to implement it.
Okay.
There are no definitions in here.
Okay. Any other questions of the patron?
Right here, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Marsden. Hold on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wouldn't any kind of constitutional question be about the ordinance? This just gives the locality the right to take a shot at it, but they would be held to the constitutional question, not this statute. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, Senator Marsden, I think you're exactly correct. Either the ordinance would be overbroad or would be unconstitutional in some other way if it were going to be challenged. The challenge would be to the ordinance.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Questions? Senator Steph.
I do have a question, and I do understand that impersonating a law enforcement officer is in fact a crime. I don't believe there's a crime with dressing like somebody in the United States Armed Forces. Now, everybody's familiar with 511 pants and 511 cargo pants and other types of cargo pants Well, in Navy Special Warfare, there are 25-plus uniforms that all revolve around 511 type pants or cargo type pants, whether it's a polo shirt, a T-shirt, whether it's shorts in a polo shirt, shorts in a T-shirt. This is so broad that it would be almost impossible to enforce something like this. And in the Navy, there's over 50 uniforms, and in just Navy Special Warfare, there's 25 that I'm aware of alone. And I will tell you that the average Joe out there wearing a pair of 511 pants and a black polo shirt and a pair of either Bates or 511 or any type of combat-looking boots, black boots, tactical boots, or even black tennis shoes by New Balance, or the black boots or tennis shoes by Oakley could be impersonating or dressing like a military person. So this, we might as well just say, if you're going to buy clothes, you can't buy anything on this list, which that's not what we're about.
Is there a question
We're
in
about
there?
clear, concise laws, and this law is not clear.
Mr. Chairman, Senator DeSteph, in my earlier response to Senator Marsden's question, that's where the gist of where you're going is. Any challenge would be to an ordinance that's drafted, not to this statute, I don't think, or not to. We aren't drawing a specific ordinance here. Now, to your point, there's nothing in here that says you can't dress. You can't wear 501 cargo pants, or you can't wear camos. What this says, if you wear anything that makes you look like an official on-duty soldier or on-duty police officer, you could be in violation of a local ordinance if they draft one under it.
And Mr. Chairman, what I'm saying, if I may, and Senator Morrison, is a pair of Oakley boots, 511 tactical pants, and a black polo shirt, you can also be misconstrued as a member of Navy Special Warfare, a combat-related type unit. So our laws are supposed to be written where the common average man understands them, where they're clear and concise. And if we pass something like this, my concern is we're going to open up Pandora's box, and we're going to make it so confusing that the underlying ordinance is going to have to be just, I don't even know how you would even go to it. So, Mr. Chairman, with that, I'd like to make a motion to PBI this bill. Mr. Chairman, we have a motion and a second.
Hold on. We have people here in the public who could come to this great committee that we have, who may want to speak in favor. Huh?
We have people who want to comment.
Right. So those who would like to speak in support of this bill, please step forward. Yes, ma'am. Welcome and identify yourself. Welcome to the Senate.
I'm
Committee.
Kim Bobo. I'm the director of the Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy. Because we were concerned about what was going on in Charlottesville, we mobilized about 70 religious leaders to be in Charlottesville. I and most of my staff were there. It was terrifying. And part of the reason it was terrifying is, like he said, you couldn't tell who was the good guys and who was the bad. It was really an awful situation. And so while, I don't know what the right bill is to address this problem, and maybe there's some ways to word this better, it was a very serious problem, and I would urge you to work to find some solution so cities can not have that kind of situation again. Thank you very much.
Any questions for this witness? Ma'am, thank you for coming in. Thank you for what you do. And certainly I know that you came with love and peace that day.
I tried.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone who would like to speak against this bill proposal? Yes, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Jim Cannon, Virginia Coalition of Motorcyclists. We have many groups that support us and within the state that are veteran-based groups, and in their club activities and in their club attire, they wear very militaristic. A lot of times they wear remnants of their active duty uniforms. I'd also like to point out, and those of you from Northern Virginia are very familiar with Rolling Thunder, the largest veterans motorcycling event in the country. And that brings tens of thousands of veterans in town proudly displaying their uniforms. And we just believe something like this may open the door to a lot of unnecessary and unwanted interaction based on that attire. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate your words. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak in favor or against the bill or have questions of that witness? Hearing none, I didn't hear the motion, so please remake it.
Mr. Chairman.
I didn't hear.
The motion was to PBI and a second.
Mr. Chairman.
Motion to pass by indefinitely has been made and properly seconded, and I'll identify Senator Serville.
Mr. Chairman, I have a attempted motion to amend this bill to hopefully deal with the some of the concerns that I've heard. So I have a motion to amend.
Well, right now, we're in the, are you willing to grant a courtesy here and withdraw the motion?
Maybe I could explain my motion and then he can decide.
That motion to PBI has been withdrawn, and you have the floor, Senator Serville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, it sounds to me, first of all, I have a motion, and then, I guess, speaking to my motion to amend the bill by striking the first paragraph and replacing it with a different paragraph, and speaking to that motion.
Okay. Let's first basically explain what you'd like to do by saying what you would insert. We get that you take basically line 14 through 19 out, and then you would replace it with something else. Please read us what that replacement might be.
I would strike the paragraph and replace it with this. Any locality may require any person wearing any combination of attire and weaponry commonly associated with military combat, paramilitary operations, or warfare that gives a reasonable person the impression that the wearer is an on-duty member of the United States Armed Forces, an official law enforcement agency, or the militia during any permitted assembly of persons or movement of persons or vehicles to wear some type of distinctive clothing. The idea is, like, if somebody wants to, wear something that makes where they look like military and law enforcement, they got to the locality can make them put on an orange vest or something so they can be picked out. That would be the idea. So they can still wear their uniform and march with their shield and their helmet, but the locality can require them to put on an armband or a vest or something so that they can be picked out and separated. That's the idea. So it would interfere with their right to do that, but they could at least be identified. That's the concept, and maybe I need to tweak the words a little bit more, but that's the idea.
Senator Deeds, this is your bill.
Yeah.
Is that a friendly amendment?
As I said, any amendment that will allow the bill to proceed moves us forward, but the key language is that we're still talking about stuff that's going to make the reasonable person have the impression that the person is an on-duty, or is it?
Senator Deeds, let me just, isn't it, and I don't know that you can get here through this way, but look, we have impersonation of a police officer. And the statute, because I've defended people for impersonating police officers, is pretty basic. It says you can't impersonate a police officer. I mean, you're saying, really what you're saying is you can't impersonate an active duty military guy, man or woman, right?
Right.
And Scott wants to put a sticker on the forehead if they do, to show that they're not trying to do that.
Well, if you want to beat this down, to say a locality can pass an ordinance that says during a permitted event, you can't impersonate an active duty military person, that's fine with me. Ultimately, that was the problem. You had people that just, with these shields, you couldn't tell the good guys from the bad guys.
Sure.
And there was basically a riotous situation that cost us, a woman and then 2 police officers.
Yeah, and I understand that, Senator Deeds. Were any of the persons who were dressed in the militia type militaristic, were they arrested or involved in that part?
I don't know that.
Okay.
I don't know. I can't answer that.
Okay. And they didn't, there wasn't anyone there imitating or impersonating a police officer who was arrested for that, was there?
Not that I'm aware of.
And I'm asking that, I'm not trying to quiz you, I don't know the answer.
I just don't know.
Okay. All right. Do you want his amendment? Or?
Mr. Chairman, I think the amendment can be helpful because it doesn't get to defining what sort of paramilitary or military clothing happens to be. It merely says if you are not, as I understand it, if you are not a member of the military or police officer on duty and trying to look similar to that, you have to wear an identifying apparel or something.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Sturman. Or wait, no, hold
So
on, I'm sorry.
The question is, will
Senator
the
Favola was
existing
not
amendment
finished.
going to be adopted? I view it as a friendly amendment, but I don't know.
I don't want to look, and this is the way I operate this committee. I don't want to just run over top of your bills unless you want it, and I don't want my members running over top of your bills unless you want it.
Well, I mean, and I hate to take up this committee's time, but
sir,
perhaps
this is
the
important.
easiest thing would be to pass this bill by, and I'll get with Senator Sturvell and see if we can come up with language that does what he wants. If not, I won't appear back here next week, and you can do what you want with the bill.
Well,
Okay?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Carrico.
I understand what Senator Deeds is trying to get at. I mean, I've viewed the videos. I don't think any of those people would be misconstrued as a police officer that I saw. I think for
National
me,
Guard or anything like that, Senator Carrico? I mean,
there's nobody that I saw there that you could misconstrue as a police officer. I think the problem is you had a situation where two groups were bound and determined to create civil disturbance, and because the police were held back, you didn't know that the police were even there. And that's where the problem started. And I don't know that this is going to stop that issue. And I just don't think there's anything you could do here that would even give me comfort, because I think you would entrap too many people.
Yeah, and look, Senator Deeds, I'm going to tell you, I don't think that you can find language, even with the wordsmithing of the brilliant Senator Sturvell, that's going to satisfy me and my constitutional concerns. But I will do you this favor, because I know this is important to your locality. Is that right? Would you agree with that?
It's important to the entire Commonwealth of Virginia.
But your locality,
and it's
right? The people that
8.2
you
million
represent,
people.
is that
Yes,
right?
it is.
I'm going to grant you 1 week reprieve. You get with him, and we'll come back. And maybe you change some hearts and minds in this committee, but maybe you don't. But we will grant you that, because dag nabbit, I like you, Craig, and so I'm going to give it a shot. All right, don't let me down. All right. And for those that testified, we will remember your testimony today, so you don't have to come back next week. And we really, really appreciate you doing it. So thank you for that. All right, let's go in the queue. That was a great waste of time. Tickled out the issue. In today's environment, I don't know if that's exactly the words we need to use. Senator Wexton, Congresswoman, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon. I guess I'm the final bill of the day.
No, Senator Wexton,
Oh,
we
good.
have more, but we are running close to the hour. So what I'm going to ask you to do is
fantastic.
to hustle, because
I will
everybody
keep
else
it
in the
brief.
queue
There's
is
a
local.
substitute. I don't know if it's been distributed yet.
Now, Senator Wexton, your Senate Bill 123 has been rolled into Senate Bill 92. Senator Black, you were both chief co-patrons, and that bill passed unanimously out of this committee without your assistance even needed. So there
Thank
you
goodness for my for the chief patron and his fine advocacy on that bill.
Right. All right, Senator Wexton, Senate Bill 444.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And please, let's be reminded that this committee must adjourn at shortly before 4 o'clock or at 4 o'clock, because the Senate Republican caucus has to meet. So
I
let's
will
keep
keep
that in
this
mind.
very brief, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I know you've received a lot of emails about Senate Bill 444, and I assure you that this bill is associated with neither ISIS nor the Taliban. It is simply an attempt to allow localities to make decisions about monuments on their own property, and to put the decision-making back in the hands of the people, closer to the decision-making. We often talk about, local government closer to the people is better, and this is an attempt to allow these discussions, debates, and decisions to be made locally. Now, as y'all know, I'm from Leesburg. We have a beautiful historic courthouse with a beautiful historic statue of a Confederate soldier right outside. And over the past few years, we've started to have a lot more discussions about whether that is an appropriate statue to remain there, or to bring some context to the discussions by perhaps having other monuments erected in that space. And a lot of folks feel very strongly on both sides of the issue. And some folks, some African-American members of my constituency brought to my attention something that I hadn't been aware of. As I have walked in and out of that courthouse, hundreds of times over the years. And I know, Mr. Chairman, you have as well been to our courthouse on a number of occasions, is that Confederate statue was erected in 1908. And it was placed outside of the courthouse, not necessarily to celebrate the great valor of those who fought for the Confederacy, but to send a message to about half of the population of Leesburg, the black folks, that there would not be justice for them inside that courthouse. I had never heard such an interpretation, but there are a lot of my constituents who believe that that was the purpose of that statue, and that's what they feel when they come to the courthouse grounds and see that. That discussion has obviously been going on for years, but it's gained some urgency after the events of August 11th and 12th. Now, there's debate about whether localities have the authority to move or make amendments to these statutes at this time. And the Attorney General issued an opinion recently under which this particular, the Loudoun County statute would not be able to be moved, is my reading of it. Because in 1904, the law changed to say that if any of these are erected after this date, they cannot be moved or changed. So
Senator Wexton, isn't there a court case pending right now on this very issue in this very statute in federal court, arising out of a case out of Danville, Virginia?
There have been numerous court cases filed, yes.
And
Mr.
so
Chairman.
this would be pending. This issue that you're trying to legislate is actually pending for interpretation by our courts.
Well, Mr. Chairman.
Don't we usually kind of wait that out before we decide what to do?
Mr. Chairman, I think that where our locality's statute is concerned, the law is pretty settled because it's clear on the face of the law that it would not be able to be moved. So,
Mr. Chairman.
But Senator Wexton, this doesn't concern just the statute in Leesburg. It considers all localities which may have these memorials, and it's not just Civil War we're talking about. It's the Algonquin, the Revolutionary War, War of 1812, War between the states, Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II.
yes.
And World War I was, within a decade of the time that this statue went up in 1908. And I know that there is a obelisk kind of statue for that in that courthouse square as well. Because of the time, at the time, perhaps civil rights were being denied to African-American citizens. Is there anything that could be interpreted, maybe not now, but in the future, that presents a problem?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think what this bill would do is to give the locality and the people of that locality the option to have those discussions, have those debates in the locality itself.
Okay.
Under this substitute, it would be required that a local governing body pass an ordinance twice with at least with at least a 12-month period in between before making any such removal or relocation of a monument. And it would have to be subject to public comment and published under or in a newspaper having general circulation in the locality. It would specify the date, time, place of the hearing, and that it would only be after such a period of time. And in the event the locality made the decision to move or remove a monument, it would need to remain publicly accessible in some way.
Safeguards. Hold on, guys.
The status of the
We need to get the substitute in position here. Motion's been made to adopt the substitute. Is there a second? Second being properly supported. Is there a discussion on the substitute? Seeing none, all in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign, and the substitute is before us. Thank you, Senator Wexton. Are there questions of the patron?
Mr. Chairman.
Understanding we have maybe 10 minutes tops.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator DeSteff.
Mr. Chairman, this bill simply
goes beyond allowing localities to relocate or remove a statue. It amends the protection against citizens damaging or defacing monuments or memorials, period. While it's clear the patron of the bill is targeting Confederate statues, the text, as amended, is not narrowly conceived to this end and could result in cherished war memorials of all wars being defaced simply because a protester disagrees with the merits of the particular war. This is not the most deliberate or most thoughtful approach to grapple with Virginia's complex and nuisance history enshrined by its memorials.
Do you have a question for Senator Waxman? Or no? Okay. Let's try to get the questions
Mr.
through
Chairman,
first. Hold on.
addressing that issue,
Yes.
destruction of property. Sadly, our Confederate statue and our Confederate statue in Loudoun County has been defaced, and that would be a destruction of property issue, obviously. So that is dealt with under the code. This is in no way
Mr. Chairman,
legalizing that sort of
Hold on.
that sort of conduct.
Senator Marsden.
Thank you. It seems to me that in this issue, if you paid for it and you're a municipality, you ought to be able to take it down. Local governments change their minds all the time. They change the names of streets. They do all kinds of things. In this particular case in Loudoun, although we're certainly talking about more than that, was this paid for out of public dollars? Or was this done for by the Daughters of the Confederacy?
This was done by the daughter, Mr. Chairman, Senator Marsden. This was the Daughters of the Confederacy. It appears.
But you're taking it out.
It's maintained as a part of the
Mr. Chairman.
courthouse grounds.
I'm just going to pair it back and forth here. Senator Carrico.
So why would we consider a law that allowed localities to take historical monuments down in their area and prohibit people from Lee, Scott, Danville, all over Virginia that may want to visit those historical sites because of the history that's there? Why would we want to punt that back to localities for them to tear them down when we as a state here have already created a law to protect that for people all over Virginia to view?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Carrico, these are decisions that can be made at the local level, closer to the people.
But Mr. Chairman, why would
Senator Carrico.
Why would we as a state government allow localities to take those monuments down when it is there for all Virginians to view?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Carrico, these are monuments on local property. So this is something that the locality has a better sense of what is appropriate in their locality. I don't think that we at the state level need to be making decisions for whether it be Loudoun or Danville or Botetourt County. I think that those are decisions that need to be made in the locality.
Mr. Chair.
Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think first let's acknowledge there's a lot of passion on all sides about this issue. But it's clear, pending lawsuit notwithstanding, that counties can't do anything at all to monuments once they're erected. And there are a lot of people who recognize that the context has changed around some of these monuments. And there are some areas that are addressing that by adding signage or reinterpreting monuments, not taking them down, but adding context to tell a complete history. And under Virginia state law today, counties definitely can't do that. And there's a lot of confusion about whether cities can. Now, it is very rare that the Richmond Times-Dispatch and the Richmond Free Press and their constituency readers agree on anything. But they agree, at least those two publications and a lot of their readers agree, maybe it's time to reconsider whether Jeff Davis should be on Monument Avenue. but they can't even have that conversation or decide if they want to put context around that. And when we had legislation last year on the opposite, to make absolutely clear no one can do anything to them. You can't move it. If you decide maybe the location it's in is not an appropriate location, you can't add context to it. Once it's up, you can't do anything. We had legislation last year that would have made perfectly clear no one can do anything to a monument once it's up. And when it was vetoed, the governor put in place a task force to look at how should we have these conversations, including the patron of the bill. Now, on that task force, they couldn't agree whether monuments should be taken down or not. But the one thing they did agree on was these are decisions and conversations that need to be had in the community where the monument is, where people have an opportunity to be heard and put that monument in context.
Mr. Chairman.
Now, let me finish, please. It is very important if we are ever going to heal as a Commonwealth, as a nation, and it is very clear we haven't. The only way to heal is to talk. And the best place to have the conversations about whether to move, change, add context, or take down monuments that were, many of them erected at a time to send a clear message to African Americans who had gained political power in the Commonwealth, starting with the 24 members who were elected to the Constitutional Convention of 1868. The over 20-some African American delegates and senators to the General Assembly through Reconstruction, that once the Constitution of 1902 was put in place to disenfranchise African Americans, at the same time, a lot of monuments were going up to send a message to intimidate them. And if we don't have that conversation and question today, 100 years later, should we revisit that decision? You have a lot of people in this Commonwealth who are festering, who the feelings that these monuments have evoked in them for over a century has been festering. And it came to a flashpoint in Charlottesville. And if we don't allow these conversations to happen locally, clearly, it's gonna fester again. Now, I don't know whether the right decision for Rich, and I live right next to Robert E. Lee, okay? Right next to him. I pass him every day on my way here. I don't know if the right decision is for Robert E. Lee to come down. But I sure think that decision should be made by the city of Richmond with its constituents through an ordinance where the entire public has an opportunity to be heard, not by the General Assembly.
Mr. Chairman.
First, thank you, Senator McClellan. Appreciate that greatly. Senator Donovan. And remember, the time is drawing nigh.
It was Chase.
Oh, I'm sorry, Senator. I swear you guys sound alike. When I'm not looking, I'm just taking a shot. Senator Chase.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will note that Senator Donovan had to step out for a minute, but anyway, I do appreciate the comments of Senator McClellan, and would like to add to that, these monuments mean a lot of things to a lot of people. I believe personally, in talking to my constituents, that decision should remain at the state level for this reason. Tourism, we have people that come all over the country to visit these monuments. We should put aside our personal feelings. I'll be honest, I personally think that we should keep the monuments in place simply for the fact that we should not erase history. We need to learn from history. We need to teach our children that racism is wrong. but it means different things to different people. And one particular locality can vote to take down monuments, which means other people cannot come to Monument Avenue, what have you. It affects the whole state, not just a locality. So I think that the decision is best. Those conversations need to stay at the state level because it's an economic impact on those that come to the community. When I look at the monuments, I respect that when we look at those monuments, we see something totally different. And I don't think it's our job as legislators to monitor each other's thoughts and how we feel about those particular monuments. We should never be in a role of being the thought police. I do believe this should stay at the state level. And I move that we PBI this bill.
Hold on. I always want to first, let's get the housekeeping done. You said you had a technical question.
I
Senator
do,
Favola.
either for the patron or for the draft of the bill.
Let's try staff first.
Okay, staff. Do cities already have the authority to relocate or put additional contextual information around statutes?
That's really, Mr. Chairman, that's really what is at issue with the pending court cases. Because the original statute that went on the books applied only to counties and not to cities, there's some question about whether cities like Danville and Charlottesville do or either have or have not the authority to remove these statutes and so forth.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, a follow-up question.
Senator Favola.
I mean, in effect, this is trying to create an even playing field, so all localities, as I understand it, in this bill before us would be cities, townships, and counties. This bill would clarify that those localities would have the authority as laid out in the bill.
This would really erase that issue that's pending before the court, make clear that counties, cities, and towns are treated equally with regard to the
And Jeff, where is the status? What is the status of the court cases right now? Where are we? Are we in the Court of Appeals in the Fourth Circuit? Or we're still?
I believe the Danville case has been appealed to the Supreme Court. I'm not quite sure about the Charlottesville case.
Okay. Any further questions of the patron? All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to speak in favor of this bill, please. We've got to move.
Good afternoon. I'm Bill Farr. I'm with the ACLU of Virginia. We strongly support the bill, which, as the senator said, would simply give localities the ability to make their own decisions about whether to retain or remove symbols of white supremacy and hate from within their own borders. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being brief, and we appreciate you coming. Anyone else want to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone opposed to the bill? Good afternoon, ma'am. Welcome.
I hope this is on, is it?
We can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Mr. Chairman and members of this committee, my name is Helen Marie Taylor, Mrs. Jacqueline E. Taylor, widow, and I have lived at 2325 Monument Avenue for the past 50 years, and this place was built by my mother and father-in-law. I also was a founder of the Monument Avenue, the original Monument Avenue Association in 1968, and I have remained the chairman of that Monument Avenue group ever since. I served on the original Monument Avenue Advisory Commission at the appointment of the then mayor, Phil Bagley. I served for 17 years. We had the responsibility of protecting and saving the street, and did. First, it was a local measure. Then it was interested in the street and the state. It spread to the entire country. And before it was over, we had over 300,000 names protecting the street, because that's how many people all over the world had come to Richmond to admire, not to revere, but to be interested in reviewing our history And I think these monuments should be saved. The monuments described in this proposed legislation are not merely matters of local concern, and many are national historic landmarks, state historic landmarks, and are eligible for inclusion in national and state historic registers. And for that reason alone, in being able to share our history with the whole world, and particularly when they have been built by the generation that came out of Richmond when it was a seething, burning ruin. Richmond was rebuilt and built along the lines that it was built even before City Beautiful in Chicago in 1903. This was before Commonwealth in Boston. It was before Grand Army Plaza in New York. It was setting the tone to rebuild. We need more monuments, not less. As I served on the Monument Avenue Commission, I used to feel that the Richard Evelyn Byrd's accomplishments to go on from the Maury Monument about his polar expeditions. Regardless of which party you're in, I've witnessed 50 years of Virginia and the people of Richmond trying to reach a more perfect union. And they have. We were the first state in the United States to elect a black governor. If anything, we ought to have a statue of Wilder. We ought to have Oliver Hill, who helped us through the integration period. We could afford to have more than one of Maggie Walker, for heaven's sakes. Lewis Powell, our Supreme Court Justice, who helped us through that period. These are all people who were associated with change, and they were never there at the unveiling of the I wish I had it to read to you, but the unveiling of the Lee Monument made it so clear that the people who were building it were not building it at all to be offensive or to belittle the blacks or those on the Union side. It was going forward to be loyal to the United States of America and move forward. And I do hope that you will honor, you've taken an oath to uphold the laws of Virginia, I assume. And I hope that's what you're going to do, is to keep in mind that these were put there to protect our city and our state and our nation. For heaven's sakes, I was in New York and they're taking down Columbus at Columbus Circle. What next? What next? If they're taking down a plaque off of the church that Robert E. Lee in Washington attended, what next? We have the Udon statue right over here in the rotunda. Shall we take that down too? He was a slave owner. They tell me that, and someone was questioning the other day, well, aren't you going to honor the Constitution? No, it was built. It was drafted by a bunch of white supremacists who were slave owners, and it should be torn up and start over again. In the name of heaven, you people are here to guard our Constitution and our American history, which has been seeking a more perfect union. And we need to record the people who were. I just had a call from Jefferson Davis's great-great-grandson saying he'd certainly been misquoted when CNN said that he had said that they might take the monuments down if they don't like them. That certainly did not represent what he felt. And I can't imagine you're not seeing that your job is to protect those who have tried to create a more perfect union and to enhance our city. To get back to the dollar, think how much it means to Virginia to share that history with the whole world. What tourism means. These people don't come here to revere the monuments, they come here to learn from them and appreciate them. So please, I ask you to defeat this.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, quickly, do you want to speak? We ran out of time for the speakers, but I'll let you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for your service. And
Thank you. I'm speaking to you. I normally wouldn't wear a ball cap and sides. I'll take it off. But I am a Vietnam era to Desert Storm veteran, over 20 years in the Navy. My father was a Navy chief in World War II, served in both the North Atlantic and the South Pacific. My family arrived in Virginia in 1635. In 15.2 states the Algonquin War of 1622. Well, I think we missed that one. But starting with the Algonquin War of 1644, which Lieutenant Francis Poitras, my several times great-grandfather, served in, we've served in, my family has, every war Virginia and the country's been involved in up to date. I'm glad the truth has come out here today, because I don't think there's anybody in this room, over there, anywhere, that doesn't know what this is really about. It's about some people that perceive the Confederate monuments as monuments to a nasty white race, white supremacist racist. Well, that's not true, but it doesn't matter. 15.2, the original bill, as it's written as it stands today, protects all war monuments. I was thought when I heard what was going on about the cargo pants and all, kind of the same thing, because it's a broad brush. If you change it, if you vote for this amended bill, 444, it doesn't say Confederate monuments can go. I don't know. I was thinking when I was sitting over there listening, can the city of Bedford say we don't like the D-Day Memorial anymore? And because it's in Bedford, they can make it go away? Monuments commemorate what happened at that time in history. We certainly are not, we don't have things straightened out today. We've got racism, we've got the environment, we've got taxes. I could go on forever. When we get our house in order, maybe we can talk about what they did back then. But those monuments are there to show what people cared about during all those times and to honor this nation's men and women who gave everything they had, sometimes their lives, in defense of Virginia and our country. Leave all the monuments exactly as they are. Because when you start taking down monuments, the next thing you do is you start burning books. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, we've heard from everybody. Senator Wexton, do you have any closing thoughts that could be contained in 5 seconds or less?
Mr. Chairman, I would just say that, when we have local hearings on these matters, you can have dozens, hundreds of people come to be heard, and today we had 3 here in Richmond.
And Senator Wexton, I see that you have attempted to put a lot of due process in this bill. I don't know that it changes anybody's minds, but I certainly appreciate that. Do we have this committee operates by motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator DeSteff.
This bill isn't just about the Confederacy. This bill is about every single war, period.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion to PBI it. We have a second, and I'd like to call the pending question.
Mr. Chairman, I have an alternative motion
It's called a substitute motion.
called the substitute motion.
Substitute motion.
I think calling the pending question is parliamentary required, but the calling the pending question stops debate and goes straight to, and you have to dispose of the underlying. It was premature. Hold on 1 second. So, hey, guys,
And I'm going to, as a chairman, I didn't hear your motion. You have to vote pending question. Okay. And so there's a motion and a second to pass the bill by indefinitely. He called the pending question. Ruling from the umpire on third base side says that we have to call the pending question. So the pending question before this body is to pass this bill, Senate Bill 444. Oh, that's right. So we must now vote. I'm sorry, it's been a while. We must now vote to see, not to pass by indefinitely, but to call the pending question. And should this be a roll call, or can it be just a voice vote? Voice vote. All right, all in favor of calling the pending question, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Pending question is called. Therefore, the motion before us is the motion to pass by indefinitely has been made and properly supported by a second. Is there any discussion? Any more discussion? Seeing none. All in favor of PBI, I'll open the roll. Vote yea. All opposed, vote nay. The clerk will close the roll.
7 ayes, 6 nays.
7 ayes, 6 nays. The bill fails to report by 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for your presentation. All right, guys, we are out of time. I'll entertain a motion to carry all remaining bills over until the next exciting local government meeting. Motion being made in a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. And the committee shall rise.